Right now, I want to bring in my guest for this hour, joining us from Los Angeles, California, appellate attorney Matthew Barhoma. Matthew, great to see you again. Thanks for being on the show.
Good to see you.
All right, so we're talking about R. Kelly here. Interesting questions by the jury. I'm sure you were listening there. Do you get any sense? This is what we do. We read the tea leaves. I thought the questions were interesting. I thought they get to the heart of what's going on in this case. So I thought they were very interesting questions. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, this is a jury pool that's actually pretty well divided up. Really good, by the way, for appellate purposes. It's going to be hard to go against this jury. They're really well divided, and they're hitting it on the mark. They're asking just the right questions. They're engaging, and they're actually, taking this in and providing exactly what we need from them as fact finders. So I think that they're hitting it on the mark, and the questions are right on point. This is exactly what we ask of them.
No question. Now, one of the things I want to ask you, I want to read you something from the closing argument of the prosecutors, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Basically, they said, this is something that they said. They said, this does not mean that the other members of the enterprise knew what was happening or even happy about it. That's not what the law requires. The government doesn't have to prove that the enterprise or actors acted with criminal intent, only that the defendant had the criminal intent. So my question for you is, I mean, again, one of the real benefits of going under this Racketeering Act is that it's very broad. It allows for non-criminal acts to act as predicate acts for a criminal enterprise, which is very interesting. I want to know your thoughts on whether you think the feds have the horses for that.
I do. I actually think I do. They do. I've always thought that R. Kelly at some point was going to face racketeering charges. And it's exactly on point, okay? We're looking where he's on trial, not anyone else is on trial. And their intent, their motive, while they were acting through him, which is really vicarious liability, really is insignificant when we're talking about the charges as they exist against R. Kelly. And you hit it on the mark, okay? Racketeering charges are slated for the prosecution to be able to get an easy conviction because organizational crime is a big offense, and sometimes it's really hard to prove. That's exactly the heart of racketeering. It's organizational criminal acts and falls under the Mann Act, which is very on point to exactly the kind of conduct that R. Kelly is being accused of.
So where can this jury find a way, if they didn't want to convict him of that, if they're not buying this racketeering, what the defense wants them to believe is something along the lines of that R. Kelly was marketed, and this comes from their closing argument, was marketed as a sex symbol, a playboy, and then he started living that lifestyle. Where is the crime in that? Okay, some people like kinky sex, and that's not a crime. That is the area where I think the defense wants this jury to see these facts a little differently. The idea that this is just the rock star lifestyle, and you can't criminalize that because it's all part of this whole marketing machine, and the dream becomes real, so to speak.
Absolutely, and it would be great. That'd be a really good argument if the conduct that was alleged was actually legal. Okay, we're talking about young girls, we're talking about young individuals who can't consent to certain things. The prosecution went through showing you what the rooms look like, what the floor plan looked like, and how the organizational crime was committed. Okay, if we're saying that this is the rock star lifestyle, which it could be, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not the jury. It could be. If it is, all of these girls would be of age. It wouldn't fall under the Mann Act, and it would be very hard to prove racketeering. Not the case here. I don't know how the jury is going to rule on it. But there's a lot of indicia of what's required to at least be prosecuted for a racketeering charge in this case.
Yeah, you make some fantastic points, because the idea that it was illegal, and so many of the acts were sort of directed to cover up the fact that some of his likes or kinky sex was illegal. And I thought some of the most important evidence really revolved around those letters that he made folks sign, where he wanted to make sure that he had something to use against them. And that to me really gave the sense of the machine that was working on his behalf. And I'll tell you the other part that's hard to believe here is, he was a genius. He was constantly working, constantly in the studio, producing incredible music, but yet he had the time to figure out all of this and make it go in the direction he wanted to go. That's the part that I think may be a little difficult for the jury to believe.
Absolutely. Actually, you know what? Me and you discussed this even in other cases. And R. Kelly has gotten away with a lot of celebrity justice, and it's his safe haven. Okay, we always go back to how beautiful his voice is, all the music, and all the #1 hits that he has, and he uses that as an opportunity to shield, sweep under the rug any kind of alleged criminal conduct. And in this case, he's doing that once again. It's trademark R. Kelly defense. It's exactly what I would do if I was his defense attorney, which is to show that he's a safe haven and that he's not committing these criminal acts, and to say that it's all engulfed in one. But really, the prosecution is coming in and saying, I don't think so. Look at the level of sophistication of this organizational crime, starting from the get. It's almost like the guy was represented into, into some of these criminal acts.